You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for music lovers. I'm your host, Kelly. Join me as I learn more about the common thread that weaves throughout our lives, music. Welcome to episode 3 of Tapestry. On this episode, I talk with the members of Deeply Woven about forging a path in the instrumental progressive music scene, playing on stage with bands from a variety of genres, and a little bit about Franklin the Turtle. You're listening to Witheria off the new Deeply Woven EP, set to release on September 21st. Thank you guys for your patience. Thank you for figuring this out. To my listeners, after a little frustrating tech support sort of struggle, I finally have remotely in front of me, I have 3 of 4 members of Deeply Woven. I have Jorge Torres, who's a guitar player. I also have Shawn Hadid, who's their other guitarist, and Shawn Wallace. Thank you guys for being on Tapestry. I appreciate it. And I want to kind of turn everything over to you guys because I know you have been working on a new EP that I've gotten to listen to, and it's fantastic. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about that and sort of what you guys do as a band?
So we're coming out with a EP. It's our very first EP. We've been working on it for probably 2 years, yeah?
Yeah, like writing and demoing and everything.
Yeah, like refining everything for 2 years. We worked with Adam Bentley from Arch Echo to get it mixed and mastered, and we self-recorded it. And let's see, it's been about 2 years now. We're finally at the home stretch of releasing it, which should come out. I think it's safe to say now that we're safe to say that it's gonna come out September 21st. So
21st. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, and in between now and that time, we're gonna be doing some other stuff. But as for the EP, yeah, we're pretty much done with that. We're in the final steps right now, so it feels pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, good. No, that's great. And I know it's 6 tracks, I think. Yeah. 6 or 7 tracks. Which one of you guys is sort of the person who goes, okay, we're going to sit down and write the EP? Like, is there sort of a mastermind, or are you guys all pretty much creatively independent of one another?
I wouldn't say mastermind, but, the person with the passion, the person driven, who kind of, wanted to see this vision happen was definitely me, but I didn't want to do it alone. So I recruited my boys here and Steve, who can't make it, of course, today. But yeah, the whole process started with me having a vision with what I want to hear with music. So I started around 4 years ago. Prior to that, I was kind of in between what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I liked music. I knew how to play guitar. I was playing like metalcore, so it was
gotta start somewhere.
It was fun. And then when I realized how much more you can do, I was like, I want to do more. And I found bands like Animals as Leaders, Sean, Periphery, and I was like, I want to do that. And so then Steve, he was in a band with me. It was like a metalcore band that I started to. It wasn't my metalcore band; it was my friends, and we kind of. They got my input from like my taste of music, which was like leading into Periphery, prog, stuff like that, and then it just led to being like, okay, I want to do my own thing. Like, I didn't think this band was serious enough, or it wasn't my vision, and I had like my own thing. So me and Steve kind of separated from that in good terms. Like, those guys weren't bad guys. I just think we could do. I want to say a lot better. That sounds cocky, but.
Well, maybe you kind of outgrew the project from a musical standpoint. Right.
So that's exactly what we did. We worked on a few songs. There's a lot of songs that didn't make it to the EP that are still good, but I think that the audio quality and the demoing takes away from it a lot. So we kind of dismissed those. They might come back, but from there on, we kept developing our sound. And funny enough, like 4 years later, we only have 6 songs, but we're really proud of those 6 songs. But
I think you guys should be very proud of those 6 songs because, as I mentioned in the review, kind of a basic platform for everybody here, like I would describe you guys, Deeply Woven, as, you know, instrumental, progressive, something kind of in the vein of David Maxim Midzik, or however you say his last name, you know, that kind of stuff. It's instrumental prog, but it's a lot more than that. And so I forget, were you guys friends before, or did you kind of come into Deeply Woven as people who just all wanted to create music in that style?
Sean claims that we're still not friends, but we just do this. No, it's kind of, yeah, we kind of picked up. I would say it was kind of me and Steve, you know, at first. But anyway, yeah, these guys came along because me, Steve, we were doing our own thing, and you know, as a two-piece, it doesn't sound as full. You know, we can have backtracks and everything, but there's a certain impact that we were looking for, and that can only be done with like talented members.
I think in general, when you remove their tracks from the backing track, everything tends to sound a lot cleaner, and that's a good separation of sound, and it sounds organic and clean.
Right.
Organic is definitely what I was trying to go for as well. Yeah. Like, yeah, I didn't want things to be like too, yeah, I guess just non-organic. Like, I wanted actual people to be there, and you know that takes time because it's like if you're trying to hold yourself to a standard, you want people that actually come through. Not right. You know, not just musically talented people, but people that actually put in the work. So these guys are doing exactly that. So
I think that was the goal when I joined the band as the second guitarist, to try to make the sound as organic as possible. Because at that point we were moving the distorted guitar and like the other clean layered guitar from the backing tracks live, and it created a much more organic sound. Like for now, the only guitar we have in the backing tracks is like the ambient notes and like the ambient sounds and the MIDI.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely cleaned up our live sound a bit and made it a lot more organic. And it's interesting because live I play a two amp and almost all analog combo. So George is all digital, so it's pretty cool to hear the analog and digital combined live.
Yeah, it kind of evens out pretty much. Like, yeah, like one is like all analog, and one is just like digital, but it still blends in pretty nicely. You can get the best of both worlds, especially when you combine them. So.
I think it has a unique sound coming together live.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that was really, I think if I had to pick one takeaway from listening to the EP, was what I had kind of said was like there are so many like bottom of the barrel gent instrumental bands, and they all sound completely the same. Like it's literally just somebody with an Ibanez 7-string, and like they're just playing the same crap over and over again. I'm sorry if that's the guitar you play, but,
no, it's good.
Okay, I'm gonna back up a step. I was at I went to see OTEP recently, and they had some, I'm really sorry, but just this awful, terrible, like, rock rap band opening with them.
Oh, God.
And this guy, it was just, like, terrible rock rap, and there was the one guitarist, he had an 8-string Ibanez, and I swear he played, like, 3 of the strings. Like, he looked like he would have rather been doing homework
really quick,
than being there.
Was this the band Hacktivist?
No, it was,
you know Hacktivist, right?
It's terrible. I mean, I wanted to be so open-minded and like it so much, and it was just awful, but I'm like, this guy should be in a better band. Like, he is way underselling his talent, and I'm thinking he could go off and at least make, like, a crappy gent band that sounds like every other crappy gent band out there, but this guy was just, like, staring through the crowd, like, playing the same just 3 notes the entire time. He looked so miserable.
Monotonous chugging. That's a new genre. Monotonous chugging.
I guess. Oh, it was just bad, but I was like, bro, I feel for you. I'm so sorry. But that being said, to get back on topic, I'm sorry. The thing that really struck me when I listened to everything was those additional sounds, the weather noises in particular, and like the additional textures and stuff. So, you mentioned some of your musical references and idols, I guess. What's the most important element you can add to your music to really leave an impact on your listeners? Like, what do you think is the most important part of all the music that you've just written?
For me, that's hard to say. I mean, I can give you a cliche answer, like, to be unique, but I mean, I really can't get too much more into depth. It's really about being unique, and that itself is cliche, but it's whatever you sound like isn't cliche. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's about like, yeah, that's the formula. It's to be unique, but how would you provide that? That takes, personally, it takes like life lessons. I know it sounds dumb, but like my personal experience with life, and how I translate that with music. I think that's the best way to describe that. It's just like the sum of what I am at that point when I write music. I want to put that into words, not into words, but into music.
Right.
And it takes a certain mentality just to kind of develop that, because that's not going to happen like that. It's going to take recording that button 10,000 times, that recording button 10,000 times, and doing things differently, making that note a little bit differently. But it's all about like what resonates with you. Not, there's a certain point, of a musician's kind of way of writing. It's like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I can do this and that and that and that. But then it's about evoking certain emotions where it's super new. If it's really new to you, then it's new to everybody else. So
yeah, that's very well said.
Yeah, I try to approach things like that and just make it as tasteful as possible. That's my approach. But I don't know if you want to make any input on that. But
I personally just like the textural quality of our songs. I think like there's a lot of parts like interweaving and sort of like not exactly lined up with one another, like parts that like are angular or something. That's what I hope would like make an impact on the listeners. Like just a lot of stuff to look into like separately, like a lot of points where you can dive in and hear like that certain thing, and then drift away from that, hear something new besides that.
Yeah. I really enjoy stuff that allows me to come back for multiple listens. It's kind of like a good movie. If you really enjoy a movie that you think is funny or pulls on your heartstrings, you can watch that movie 20 times and you're always going to pick up on something different. And that's kind of what I strive for with my ear too. And I think maybe, it's safe to say that all four of us right here, we're all progressive music fans. It's very boring to sit through pop music or stuff that's a little bit more formulaic. And even though, like, throwing the term around prog as a genre, that can also become formulaic.
Yeah.
People would be like, oh, this is definitely prog, even though it actually really sounds like every other prog band out there. So is it really prog? But
that's true.
I like being able to latch onto something and let my ear kind of take me where I want it to go from there. And I definitely think you guys have accomplished that, because in between this and the interview, I was like, ooh, I want to go back and listen to Hollowport and see what I can pick out, or like some of the stuff that I heard at the first listen. There's a lot more for me to grab onto.
That's awesome. That's exactly, we look up to bands like Animals as Leaders that does exactly that. Like there's one part that you can listen to, you're like, that was hot. And then like the next time, like the next 4 or 5 listens, all of a sudden you're listening to the drum part. Like, yo, I didn't even notice that. Or like there's like one little minimal thing that now it comes out to me. So we do like the whole thing about layers and everything, like things that you can dig into. We try to do that. And we don't try to do it too much because we don't want to overcomplicate things. But that's the whole purpose, is to kind of make everything coherent, but still pique your curiosity, so that you can have those moments to peek, or I'm sorry, to look into,
To sort of go back to what you were saying, George, about how you want to craft this music that kind of speaks to something you're going through in your life, or just a period in time. Being that you guys have had a much longer period of time to write this music, you've been doing it for, the EP for 2 years, but you've kind of been together for 4. I imagine you're all young men, you're going through different stuff in your life. Like, how do you know when something's finished? You're working on something for 4 years and you might be going through, like, let's say a bad breakup, or a relative gets cancer or something, something that's going to deeply impact your life. Well, if you get over it and another 3 years go by, how do you go back and revisit that song, or rework that song to make it just as meaningful as it was when that first inspiration hit?
I guess the same way I was kind of describing, like, how to transition what I go through life into my music. I really don't know how I do it. It's because it's a combination of life experiences and what I pick up from other musicians. So it's a combination of that.
definitely. I agree with the picking up from other musicians thing.
Yeah, it's a whole combination of things.
It's sort of something that you can't even avoid. Like, you'll have like a random creative spike or inspiration, and you write something, and then later on you listen to it and you're like, wow, that sounds like The Contortionist. Or like
Right.
We draw a lot of inspiration from parts of the music as we listen to it, and that's part of the replay value. Like every time we go back and dig into something, we might find something that inspires us a little bit more than we listened to it before. But yeah, that's our main thing. Like we draw a lot of inspiration from the music we listen to, and the inspiration we get from everyday life that translates to our mental state, and which in turn is what influences our music.
And that's what speaks for us. Like, I mean, if somebody resonates with the music, like, you know how you say, like, you know, it's only so relatable, like pop music, right? Because it's all feel good, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? With other music, there's like emotional, you know, dynamic and everything as well. You can feel that even with instrumental music, and if you can feel that through our through our music, then we accomplish that, because that's exactly the goal. It's to kind of like resonate with other people. And
I've always liked that being instrumental. You are, in a sense, kind of giving the listener a blank slate for their ear, because you don't have lyrics to sort of coach you through stuff.
Exactly, right.
And that was going to be a question, was sort of what made you land on sticking as an instrumental band? Not to mention that currently, like in 2018, to be an instrumental progressive metal band or progressive rock band, you are in no small company. There are a ton of them, and they're being very successful. And I think you could listen to, you know, Pliny or Intervals or Animals as Leaders, and you can get something entirely emotionally different from all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't sure what the reasoning behind that was, but you kind of already answered it. It's just that you can sort of give everybody's ear their own jumping off point. It's not a prescribed meaning.
Right, exactly. Yeah, people can interpret that feeling however they like. You know, like certain songs can be a little sad or melancholic, and it can remind them of something that's going on through their life. But it can kind of relate into when I was writing it. Like, I was felt this way too, but it's not the exact same thing. But another thing, just to clarify, it's also because we write instrumental music because we just, personally, I do still want a vocalist. I'm not actively looking into it as often as I was before. And I'm always kind of jumping and kind of like keeping my eye out to see if there is somebody out there. But I don't write off the chance or the option to have a vocalist. It just has to be somebody tailored, you know, somebody who you know, is just like us, like has the same vision, like really wants to make something unique. And you know, there's a lot of vocalists out there, but there's like very few that really line up with certain people's visions. So it's still out there, like it's still an option. Hopefully, at least for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I feel the same way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, though, I think we're doing pretty well with just keeping it instrumental. I think we can translate exactly what we want through without lyrics.
So that's a good segue then. I know you guys are based out of like southern New Jersey. You're real close to Philly, correct?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, so you're actively playing shows in and around the Philly area, which I know is pretty much a hotbed for all sorts of things. Like big shows come there, big acts come there. How has your touring been, or your local shows been? Like, what is that like for you guys as a band?
Well, we haven't toured yet. We're gonna hopefully do one in the fall. That would be awesome. But the shows have been cool. Like you were saying, like the diversity of the area, a lot of big acts coming through, and we've been able to play shows that were like super diverse and really interesting. Like, I never thought that I'd play a show in like a rock or metal band with a rap group, and we ended up playing.
Who did you play with?
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, it's just like everyone gets, you know, their own flavor of music. You know, it just creates like a cross appeal or something.
I wrote down some of the bands that you guys have toured with, and that's like, you read my mind. I keep saying tour. I'm saying play to show. I keep using the terms interchangeably, but John Ferrara from Consider the Source, like, I've gotten to see them, and he is a phenomenal bass player. Like, he is just so interesting to watch. I'm like in my head, like rolling back, like, man, that would be a sick show. Like you guys with the real bright, vibrant, instrumental prog, and then you just have John like shredding the hell away.
And he plays like a synth with his feet. Like he has like an old like organ foot like pedal board or something, and he converted it to MIDI. And he plays like polyrhythms with his feet on this like MIDI keyboard, basically, and while playing bass. And
wow,
that was
it's really unique. It's very cool to see.
I will say, when I got to see him with Consider the Source, granted I was kind of standing like on his side of the stage, but I couldn't stop watching him because he was just like playing, and he like bounces up and down when he plays, and he was just so interesting to watch. And I was like, man, if I was in a band, I wouldn't know what to do, like getting to share a stage with a guy like that. You've also played with Aviations, right?
Yeah.
Really, like some people, bands that people that listen to the stuff we listen to should know about. So,
yeah, definitely.
Like, have you guys had a favorite show you've done, or anything that you've really had like a big takeaway from?
It's safe to say that we all, for the most part, we barely had any bad shows. There's definitely ones that stand out more than the others, but my personal favorite was, I mean, if I had to choose, can I choose like a few?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm terrible at choosing too.
A definite favorite of mine would be when we played with Arch Echo when they toured with Aviations, and who else did they tour with?
Stargazer was playing. They didn't
they didn't tour. So Stargazer. We played with them.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I know you love Stargazer, and you're rightfully so about that, because those guys are killer. We got to play with Stargazer, Circuitry. Was it Circuitry that day? No.
It was just us, Stargazer, Arch Echo, and Aviations.
And Aviations, right? And that was in Trenton, New Jersey, and it was just so well put together. I honestly, it was just the lineup itself. It was really incredible. So we had a blast, and we actually had somebody. We had Steve's friend who brought out. Steve brought out two people that did video work, and they made like this really, really cool video with like added visuals and stuff that they gave to us later. So that's actually going to be released when we put that together with the EP songs. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite shows. I'm not going to go into the other ones, but I'll leave it at that. That was definitely a really good one.
Memorable show for me was when we opened for Crypto Dira at Dingbats in northern New Jersey.
They were on my list too, and they're kind of like prog death metal in a sense.
They were so tight live. It was amazing to see. And they're all really cool dudes too, and they enjoyed our set as well. And it was really awesome to hear. And I bought their CD after, and I was listening to it a lot on Spotify, but I was waiting for that moment just to pick it up in person from them themselves.
They're really cool.
Just be like, yes, I have it in my hands.
We're actually trying to set something up with them again, hopefully soon. So be on the lookout, guys.
No, I really hope you guys can make it out west to cross the grand expanse of Pennsylvania.
I'm looking into your list for sure. I have that all saved in the spreadsheet.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking about like how you guys all had a very different and specific answer. Obviously, like bass player Sean, you answer, "Oh, I really liked playing with John Ferrara," and then like that's got to be really interesting. You're trying to present this image that you're a unique band, and I can't imagine that it's easy to try to make yourself stand out when you're playing in a city and a scene that is kind of saturated with, math rock, prog, that sort of thing.
Most definitely.
So when you're bouncing off of all these other artists that aren't even in really the same lane as you guys, like, do you find that that's pretty beneficial, that you're kind of like rubbing up against these other bands that really don't even play the same style of music as you, or do you prefer to play the stuff like that, like that show with Aviations, Arch Echo? Those guys are all kind of in the same vein as Deeply Woven.
I honestly enjoy all of it because like we play shows when we play with like other proggy bands. It's just a great like listening experience basically. But sometimes we play shows with like more just like a metal lineup, and that's really cool too because then like we're the ones adding something different to the lineup in that case.
Right.
And yeah, it's just I just like
Yeah, it
all
changes
the
things
shows.
up. Yeah, it really changes it up with just diverse sounds. And we don't go too far off. Like we look into like who we're playing with, and we're like, okay, this is cool. Um, yeah, for the most part, we're comfortable with the shows that we've played so far, and because we look into what we're playing, we try to be a little bit, a little smart with the gigs that we play. But for the most part, it's been a breeze. We've been playing with really cool people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I was more informed about what the scene is like out there, but I just know it's kind of an advantage and a disadvantage when you live near a large metro area, because if you're in like a little small, tiny ass town, like, yeah, you guys are definitely going to be the best example of your genre in a place like that, but then you're suddenly entering a really competitive world where you're trying to get your name on the bill and, get that exposure out there. I guess I can ask all of you then at this point, if you had an aim for Deeply Woven, like, in a distant future where you guys have written multiple albums and you're everything's going great, like, who would be the band that you would want to open for?
Periphery off the bat.
All right, fine.
I personally love Periphery. I think the guys, for the most part, dig it. You haven't really delved into it much, but
my answer would be the Contortionist.
For sure.
I love both those bands, but my answer would be Animals as leaders.
Cool. Yeah, well, we all.
Wow. Okay.
The thing is, we want to play with all of those guys. So then,
I think you will. Like, I will look back on this interview someday and be like, yeah, that's cool.
We made it happen.
We had technical difficulties and then sat around for half an hour and suddenly they're opening for Periphery. I think you guys could do it, like, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I love all three of those bands too, and I've seen them all live and like multiple times, all of them, and just getting to open for any of those would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking over my questions here because I know there's stuff I should have asked earlier that I'm going to kind of go backwards towards now, but because really all three of you guys, I don't know you super well, but I was sort of curious about for each of you, like, how you all picked up the instruments you chose and sort of what your pathway was towards where you are now.
Yeah.
Like what your musical training's like, who your influences were, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I started with music on saxophone in the 4th grade, actually. And,
Me too.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. I was playing alto sax. I did that for 4th and 5th grade, and then I stopped because I had an interesting guitar and I wanted to play that instead. Because like a lot of the music I was listening to at the time had guitar as the primary focus, and like at the time I was listening to a lot of older music like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, stuff in that realm, and that really inspired me when I was younger. And this was when I was like 12 years old. I picked up the guitar, and after growing up and having different influences like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine, Incubus, like even those type bands were my influences at some point. And it ultimately led me to where I'm at now, which is playing prog, because I discovered other bands and it took me on my musical journey. Basically, when my music shifted from that kind of stuff to prog was when I discovered Shawn in 2014, and they were honestly the first band I discovered that was like this type of music, and it blew my mind at the time because it was like very refreshing to hear. And after I discovered Shawn, I discovered Animals as Leaders, Pliny, the Contortionist, all those guys, and that really like changed my focus on guitar from playing rock and like funk and that kind of stuff, and blues, to prog, rock and metal, and with a heavy jazz influence. So that's basically my answer right there.
Okay, I can definitely hear the Shawn influence for sure. That is, I hope in every possible way, a compliment. I love Shawn.
Sax thing. I didn't know you played sax. That's pretty cool. That's why I didn't want to hear the answers before this, because I wanted to learn more about them on the spot. So that's kind of cool.
Well, actually, then, Shawn, did you guys program the little, like, spoiler alert, the little sax part at the end of, I think it's Hollowport?
Oh, that's recorded from a buddy of ours, Gabe. He came over and recorded the saxophone. So that was actually pre-written before. George wrote it on MIDI, and we actually wanted to have an organic saxophone on the record. So we had somebody come in and record it, and we love what he did on it.
The first half is actually improv. The second half is the pre-written half. But yeah, it was It came out.
You fooled me. It came together super naturally. Yeah. That's definitely my favorite song on the EP. But
I agree.
I like
it.
Like
My favorite is
it felt like the best kind of elevator music, like gnarly elevator music. It just like that sick bass riff at the beginning, and like I don't know. I just love it. Like I'm just dying for this EP to release so I can just spam everybody with it. But it felt very organic. I wasn't sure if that was like a thing that one of you guys just came up with, and you're like, oh shit, we got to find a saxophone player. It's always good to have a saxophone player in your back pocket because you never know when you're going to need one. Because like every tech death band at some point is like, we need a sax solo in here.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Oh, so what was the previous question? I don't know if we were like going around.
It was just kind of like, give me a walkthrough of your musical upbringing and what sort of led you to play guitar or bass.
So yeah, we heard from Sean.
Who your influences were.
Oh,
right. You wanna?
I can go. Yeah. I started playing guitar when I was 8. Because my dad also plays guitar, and it sounds really lame, but I was watching Franklin. If you don't remember that show,
like the turtle.
Yeah. And he was, I don't know why, it was like some episode where he was like, I want to learn how to play piano. And it was like a click in my mind. I was like, why don't I ask my dad to teach me how to play guitar? So that's
thanks,
how it
Franklin.
started. Yeah, thanks, Franklin. And then in like school band, I played alto sax as well. Then
you're really outnumbered, George.
I know, yeah. What am I doing? All I can do is program alto sax.
And then I continued with guitar as well, and then I joined the jazz band in high school, and I don't know, I figured out that jazz bass was a little more fun than jazz guitar to me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing bass when I was 14. Still play guitar. I like to write on guitar, so I just play bass like in the public eye, I guess. I don't know. And also I played like euphonium, the baritone horn in school.
So did I.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's not as huge as the tuba. It's not as cumbersome, but
it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah, and piano for a little bit, and that's pretty much it. And then my influences. The first style of music I guess I really got into was like alternative rock for the 90s. Smashing Pumpkins, the first band that I really got super heavy into.
You saw them live, so.
Yeah, I finally saw them after I never saw them growing up. So, and then it just branched out from there. I found out about prog metal, I guess, and when I was in college, and also getting into other styles too. I always got into some hip hop and rap, and recently it's been jazz, a lot of jazz fusion stuff. That's just really piquing my interest. So
I think in the rock world, I'm not a bass player, but it's very easy to just get this image in your head of the guy just standing there string. You are part of the rhythm section, and that does not mean that they should not be interesting or fun. And there's bands like Obscura and bands with people who are doing insane things on bass, or I think of Flea. So I wasn't sure. It seems like you kind of took the jazz pill, and now you've come out all right, I'm ready to play more interesting stuff.
Yeah. I always wanted to make bass not just follow the root notes and be its own instrument, So that's what I try and do when I write my bass parts, basically.
It's another thing that I'm not super knowledgeable about, and George knows this because I've asked him a lot of really stupid questions. But what have been some of the challenges with all of you guys just doing a lot of your own demoing and recording and stuff? What are the biggest hang-ups you face?
Using free version of Cubase. It's just a little limiting and can be glitchy at times. That's what we use to record all the DI tracks for the guitar and bass DI tracks for the EP. Was my version of Cubase that came with Pod Farm or whatever. But it ended up working out fine. It's still, as long as the export quality is good enough, then you can still just record good quality DIs and figure out the reamping and further processing later.
Yeah. Are you talking about recording it like this EP or like in general, like demoing?
Well, I guess kind of in general, because I'm not in a band, and so I only get my knowledge of like, you know, band chemistry and like the recording stuff when you see like YouTube videos. Oh, you know, we're live in the studio, we're going to show you a little bit of our session. But I imagine that every band goes through a lot of challenges just trying to get your settings right, and all pick a time and a date and get everything right, and how many takes you have to do. Like that's a world that I don't really have a lot of
let me
understanding of.
Let me dive into that a little bit actually, because for the most part, well, yeah, I was actually there for almost all of the tracking and setting all of that up, except you recorded bass on your own, and he reamped on his own. But yeah, like the difficult thing is just trying to, you know, we had plenty of time to definitely record and everything. We like had a pretty good schedule. Um, it was just about like learning mic placements on drums. That was very new to us, to me and Steve. And that was a challenge, but it wasn't a, it was just that. Like it didn't go over, being, overly difficult. Um, we actually used Nolly and Matt from Periphery. They had like a recording studio lesson thing, and it was like super super extensive. I promise you, I think it was like over 4 hours, and they like broke down every single thing about drums, and then at the very end, they even like touched up on like how to record guitars, vocals, bass, rhythm guitars, lead, and that was such a huge help. Um, and surprisingly, I got it. It's like a $99 like package thing. And it was like around Christmas of last year, and we got it for like 19.99, and it was like the biggest convenience for us. And from there, like it was so thorough. Like I know it sounds dumb because I don't know, Matt and Nolly will never hear this, but who knows? Shout out to those guys for putting that out there, because that helped us out so much. Like we got the mic placement so like it wasn't perfect, but like for the first time doing it, like Adam Bentley, the guy that the guy from Arch Echo who mixed and mastered, he said these sound pretty damn good. Like there was no bleed on like certain mics and everything. Everything was very very doable for him. So that was that was a challenge, but it wasn't anything that we couldn't get done. So other than that, it was more about like execution. Like Steve, I remember him having some trouble. Like it's overwhelming. Like trying to execute things properly. And I saw him one day. We were all getting frustrated. I mean, well, he was getting frustrated, and I was kind of like I have to kind of like I can't do much about that, but support him and just kind of be like, okay, no worries, dude. Like let's keep recording, whatever. First day was rough. Second, third day, he came in with a complete different mentality, and he just killed it. He just went straight to it. He was like, let's do it again. Let's do that. Let's do this. I don't like this. Let's do that. In 2 days, we got the whole EP done for drums.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's all about like putting yourself into a certain state of mind and, trying to conquer those challenges. But yeah, it's pretty much that, and everything else is
self. You have to be very adaptable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, everything was just like the regular process, going through recording and everything else. But it's been a learning process, and we'll take a lot from the first time around. With the new album, we'll definitely have a better clarification of things. So can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. Like I'm already getting ahead of myself because the new EP has to drop. But like I guess as long as you have a band that's together, you guys are all still willing to make music with each other. Like that chemistry is something that's really irreplaceable. And I mean, there's not a price you can put on that. It's just how it is. Sean, did you have anything to add about the recording process, or?
George covered it really well.
Okay.
Pretty much summarized everything.
That's pretty cool though too. I didn't know that about Nolly and everyone. Like I know that's Nolly's thing. Like their Periphery in general is just so fantastic in the fact that they don't want to hide their knowledge. They're like, please, yes, we'll teach you everything. Yeah, we'll write tab books and you can play our parts and we'll put this all out here. And I
love
that.
Yeah, they're a really self-sufficient band, and that's exactly like the mentality I want to put us all through. Like, we don't need to rely on much people. I mean, yes, there's going to be people that we have to rely on, like, our fans, just certain people in our lives that we have to keep by. But like, we can manage this, especially as an independent artist, because we're not signed yet. We have to do everything on our own for the most part, and if the better we can do that, then the more self-sufficient we are. So, yeah, that's another reason why I love Periphery, is that they're a hardworking band. So I respect that.
Absolutely. Like, I get the sense now that I've talked to you guys for 40 minutes, like, just that,
that long?
yeah, I know already. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, 40 something. But, like, it's not that there's a lot of bands out there that I immediately look or listen to them and be like, like, they probably all are assholes to each other. But I think the quality and the standards and the expectations you set on yourselves, it's pretty apparent that they're high, and that's great, because you're only going to be able to do better and greater things once you can get through this first thing and like learn how to properly do all this stuff on your own. Because I think a lot of people wouldn't go through that effort. They kind of would just go, well, here it is. Like, I hope you like it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We basically observe other bands that do that, and we try to be like, okay, that's not working out for them. Let's see. Our only option is to work our asses off. So that's what we're trying to
do. That's a great attitude to have.
Yeah.
I've gotten through all of my questions, but I always like to save this one towards the end. But and it's going to take 3 times as long because there's 3 of you. But each one of you, I would love to know, if you could only listen to 3 albums, basically forever, what would those 3 albums be?
Me, I was thinking over it. It's pretty hard. I think I know 2, and I think I might just wing the 3rd one. But definitely Tigran Hamayasin's Shadow Theater. That one, like, still just resonates with me, like, the hardest. It just takes, like, each time I listen to it, it doesn't get old, and I think that's what you should look for into an album that you're gonna have to listen to forever, like something that you can just dive into, like just like what Sean was saying again, like it's just one of those pieces that you can keep diving into it, and like there's so much more that you can learn from it. So like if I was to only listen to an album, it's something that I want to keep coming back to and like keep figuring out like how did they do this, and it confers, like. And I think maybe I'm thinking too literally, but yeah, if you're talking about like forever, you're thinking about, okay, there's one moment, there's one huge chunk of your years that you're just listening to it. This is fantastic. Then you still have to listen to just that. Now you have like all of this time to learn it, and that's going to take a long time because Tigran, he's such a crazy player. So that gives you, like, again, forever gives you forever amount of time to like, So that's definitely one of the bands that or artists or albums that I would definitely listen to. A second one would be Native Construct because it does just that. And a third one, I'm trying to think of just like a feel good one, and I think Zeta. Zeta by
you can answer it however you like, but
yeah, the self-titled album by Zeta. Daniel Tompkins' side project.
Yes.
That's just such a feel good album that I think I could bounce between those 3 albums and be satisfied for the rest of eternity.
No, that's more of like a synthwave kind of, like, he gets involved in a lot of things. Have you listened to is it White Moth Black Butterfly, right?
Yeah, something like that. I haven't gotten into it as much, and probably because it's probably not much more of my thing than Tesseract or Zeta, but I appreciate it because I did listen to one song, but I haven't dived into it as much.
I haven't really either, but I always like artists that don't limit themselves to one band or one project. They're like, well, if my voice or my playing style fits with a synthwave band or a folk band, hey, why not? Like, why would you want to limit yourself creatively like that?
Yeah.
Those are great answers. I actually enjoy all those albums. But anyway, I'm going to pick a Sean. Either Sean, I don't care.
Next, 3 albums for me would be, number 1 would be Language by the Contortionist. I think that album is completely flawless, and I could listen to that forever and not get tired of it. And like I've drawn a lot of inspiration on guitar from that album. Which one? Language.
Oh, Language.
Yeah. And number 2 would be Joy Emotions by Animals as Leaders.
Mm.
I draw a lot of inspiration on that as well on guitar, and that's an album that really just gave me a refreshing outlook on guitar after hearing it. Really cool to discover at the time. And third would be Parallax 2 by Between the Buried and Me.
Oh, here, hold on.
Yeah,
I know this isn't
nice.
going to get recorded, but
BT Bam
that's my shirt.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
That's
I was wearing my lucky BT Bam shirt.
That's my favorite album by them.
Yeah, it's my favorite album by them too. Yeah,
I'm more of a Coma Ecliptic kind of girl, but Parallax 2 is my second favorite. So just so you don't hate me.
No, I love Coma Ecliptic as well.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah. It was hard to pick a favorite.
Was that 3?
I know. I'm waiting for somebody to ask me, like, well, what are your 3 favorites? And I'm going to just sit here and go, I mean, I can pick like 10, but I probably could pick 3, but I want to know what you guys are picking. So
I kind of want to hear your answer.
Yeah.
My 3, I think my 3 would be Fortress by Protest the Hero.
Nice.
That's a given. That was like my first entry into, not my first, but it was one of the first entries into the prog metal world for me. And I came from like screaming vocals are scary kind of background. So that for some reason bridged the gap for me. Probably Speak for Yourself by Imogen Heap, actually, because I love her voice and I love sort of like what she can do with vocal textures and, her vocoder and her keyboards, just incredible. And then probably On Letting Go by Circus Survive.
Nice. Cool.
That's a super nostalgic album for me. I had this crappy first job where I worked at GNC and I had a lot of downtime. Like our store was so slow. Nobody would ever come in. I would work on a Sunday and we get like 4 customers. So I had a lot of downtime and I love that album so much. I would just like literally sing it to myself in the store and not a single person would walk in. And I guess just because his voice, like Anthony Green's voice is so weird, it's so different. And I was like, one, that guy can sing like way higher than most women can. It's just so weird, but it just worked. It was just bizarre, like the crazy drum writing, and that's definitely like a proto-prog album. I would consider Circus Survive a progressive group for sure.
Okay.
A lot of people don't, but they do some things that some other bands just aren't out there doing. I digress. I took a while to answer that.
All right, Sean, I think it's Sean's turn, right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tilt that shit.
So number 1 would be Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins for me.
Okay.
That is like an album I heard when I was like, I don't know, like 12 or something, and it was like before that I was listening to like a lot of like again alternative rock from that era, and when I heard that album I was like, this is something I've been like searching for, like it's like something with more emotional complexity and like sort of trippiness going on, like weird sounds, and it just sort of it sounds weird, but like I feel like I had this unconscious like idea of what I wanted the band to sound like, and that like fulfilled it. Like when I heard it, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for, basically.
Cool.
And then also I'm going to go with Language by the Contortionists.
Oh man, two out of 3.
Yeah, that album has a lot of good memories for me because I saw them like 5 times or 6 times on that tour. On that album run. And I heard about them before with Intrinsic, but I like by the time I got into music, they were already writing Language, so that was the first time I got to see them live, and it was incredible. It's just such a good cerebral album.
I like that.
And,
yeah.
And then my last one, I was gonna say Parallax 2,
Nice.
but
guys, come on. No.
Explained. I'll go with Cynic, Trace de Nair. Because I remember being like in college doing finals, and I was like, I really need something like to get me like going again. And I checked out that band on YouTube on like a related video, and I listened to the full album, and I was like, my first thought was like, this is one of the most perfectly written albums I've ever heard. It's just like the songwriting is so like on point, and like the songs are short, which I also appreciate, and like sometimes like I get sick of 12-minute like prog epics.
I don't
know, like prog epics. And I like that aspect that they could write like 3.5 minute songs that had like so much going on throughout it, like packed in.
Yeah.
Good songwriting and yeah, Tristan Ayres.
That's a great album.
That's a great album.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's actually something I didn't mention, like in my intro episode about how Rock Band and playing drums on Rock Band was sort of like a gateway into the prog world for me. But I remember Evolutionary Sleeper by Cynic was in Rock Band as downloadable content, and I played the shit out of that song. It was just like one of the coolest
Rock Band has like
tracks.
Rock Band has like a lot more options than Guitar Hero.
That's awesome that they had that as an option.
Yeah. That was a hell of a song to try to play along to. Also,
what's that song by Prequel to Sequel by BT Bam was in? I think it was in Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Something.
It was in Rock Band. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just cool to see.
Well, it was like very good move on Harmonix's part to include all these crazy like extreme metal bands and just like out there stuff, because when you're breaking the music down into what buttons do I press, like sure, prog bands are going to have harder buttons to press most of the time, but
like a prog band.
Yeah, it's like weird how you just like click on a random thing on YouTube and you end up with this world-changing view of music. I mean, I remember I would just go on Rock Band and like I'd have $10 to spend and go, okay, well I'm going to sort by difficulty, see what the hardest drum part is on Expert, see if I can play it, and then like voila, I end up with Between the Buried and Me and Dream Theater and all these bands that I had no idea. Like I almost wish I could go back to a time when I didn't know those bands and kind of discover them all over again. But I guess that's where you guys step in. You get to create the new music that other people in the future are going to be like, oh man, I want to play Deeply Woven on Rock Band. That should be your goal, really.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like it sounds like Rock Band sort of gave birth to a lot of prog heads.
It did for me. I'm going to have to like find out in the future of the show. That's going to be my other mandatory question. Like, did you play Rock Band or Guitar Hero? Yes or no?
Never.
If the answer is no, get off my show. I'm sure a lot of people found out stuff that way.
Yeah. Rock Band's hard to play when you actually play guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people that don't play guitar or bass, like they have a blast with that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's
like
totally different.
Short scale.
Wait, really quick. I want to say, okay, yeah, for games, this is irrelevant, but I used to just play Mario Kart. GameCube Mario Kart was the best, and
yes,
I'm still good at it. I dare anybody to challenge me.
No one asked
I dare. No, it's out there right now.
Actually, that's a funny question because so you guys have played plenty of local shows and stuff. I am pretty sure that didn't Aviations bring like an N64 out on their tour with them?
Possibly, but I'm not too sure. But I think that's the thing that people are doing because of Sean, because they did the Super Mario, the Super Bro tours or thing, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is interesting.
I didn't know it was them that started it.
I'm not too sure, but that's cool.
I mean, Championship Bar in Trenton, where we played with Aviations, they have their own Nintendo set up all the time in that venue, which is pretty cool.
Do they?
I played I played Tetris or something really boring with auras one time. Like the weirdest experience. Like
I know you guys are like way East Coast, and he's way West Coast, but you're probably familiar with Kyle Schaefer from Archaeologist.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and I know because I follow him on like all kinds of different. I just tagged him in a post on Progsnob today, but like, he was asking somebody like, is it rude? Is it rude that I bring my N64 to the merch table or something? And I guess he was. God, I'm sorry if I'm like paraphrasing any of this wrong, but I think he was just asking like, well, I hope people don't think that it's like a gimmicky thing, or like I don't actually want to talk to people when they come up and see me after a show and say, hey man, I really like your music. He's like, I saw it more as a gateway into just like communicating with fans and bridging that gap.
Yeah, the only difference there is like if he was just playing the game at the merch table and he was just like, pick up the CD, dude, and just kept playing.
Right, and he doesn't strike me as that kind of person at all. So
he wouldn't be playing for like a 5-hour show nonstop.
So that's definitely, it depends on the person, but Kyle seems like a cool guy, So
right, that would be like my ultimate goal. Like, you guys can just drive across the country and meet somewhere in Kansas or something, and then play like, you know, you guys, Archaeologists, Covet, or something, like some of the bands that have the ability to kind of tour countrywide. That would be awesome.
We're gonna have to try to make that happen with a full length. I think that's, I don't know about a whole tour. I mean, who's to say we can't? It's just about how this EP comes out, how well it's received, and you know, how much more effort we put into afterwards. So it can be a goal for sure if we bust our ass. Get momentum going. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah.
Now, do you guys have any other questions for me? I think I have what I wanted to know.
No. I think I really enjoyed the questions for the most part. What's that?
Where do you see your podcast in like 5 years?
Oh my God, that's a great question. It's been very interesting because I've gotten in touch with some people who like have some band management connections and some other stuff, and you know, there is an opportunity for me maybe to have other bands on as interviewees. What in my head, like, I want to go back to interviewing some guests that I know personally and share their stories, but that's not to say that in 5 years I couldn't be a little bit more deeply entrenched in the prog community. And I don't want it just to be prog, because even though that's just my favorite genre currently, I listen to a lot of other stuff too. So I don't know, in 5 years, I guess I just want to be still doing this, and more than anything monetary or celebrity-wise, because I don't care about that. I just want to be able to find people who have an interesting musical background and would want to talk about it. Someone had said to me, like, typically when you get musicians in front of a microphone and you ask them about music, they're more than happy to tell you about music. Yeah. If you just ask them questions that's just like tell me about your dog, that's cool. I mean, I do want to hear about your dog, but as a musician and a fan mostly, like, me being a fan, that's how I feel like I give back to the community. So the podcast is allowing me to be like an ultra fan kind of, and sort of be a platform for people that I might be a fan of. So I have a list in my head of like people that I would love to have on the show someday. So maybe, I guess in 5 years, if I can achieve that list, that would be badass.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good goal to have, and hopefully this is one of the ones that kind of starts that off. If you keep doing it, like, you're a great interviewer, by the way. I have to put that out there.
Oh, thank you.
Like,
thank you. I was worried I was stumbling a little bit, and we have kind of a disconnect here with our technology. But
thank you. If you go on YouTube, there's ones I think we even talked about. There was like one that it was like in India. There was like a Indian chick interviewing Plenty, and it was so cringy.
And
like,
David Max.
And David, yeah, she knew nothing about anything about them. They actually mixed up the name, or they thought they were together.
Yeah. No. My thing is, like, I'm really bad at shutting up. Like, I can talk to, like, honestly, I have added probably 30 Facebook friends in the past year that are all people that I've, like, run into repeatedly at shows. And, you know, I can tell you what band they're in and what instrument they play. And, like, I can't remember what my fiance asked me to make for dinner, but I can definitely tell you, like, oh, yeah, this guy plays this guitar, and he used to be in a band with this guy, and that was his girlfriend, and blah, blah, blah. Like, my podcast really just follows where my passions are, and so...
Yeah, it's very laid back, too. Like, I really appreciate, like, the casualness of it. It makes us feel comfortable, for sure. This is our first interview,
good.
So, you know...
We want exactly right.
And, you know, it's like, any question that can make me think, like, decently hard is, I think, it's a good thing.
Exactly.
So, that's really what I wanted to get out of it, was that you guys don't turn off the mic and you're like, oh my God, that was terrible.
No, we'll do that. We'll do that afterwards. Don't worry.
Okay, please do. No. Okay. Well, thank you guys for being on Tapestry. I appreciate it so much. Again, this was Deeply Woven that I was talking with. I think I'm all good. Thank you guys for being on, and I hope you have a good night, and I hope your drive back isn't super long.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care. Yeah.
You've been listening to Litheria by Deeply Woven. Go check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and Bandcamp under Deeply Woven, or visit their website at deeplywovenband.com. Till next time.